Do you think, Mary, that AI will one day be so smart and so capable and so autonomous that it could take over the world or rise up against humans? What do we think about job loss?
It's not even just job loss yet, right? It's the job search.
If you are 40 plus, you know more than most people in the world. What is an AI agent?
Basically, it's like a little robot that's going to do work for you.
What I saw on Stephen Bartlett's video, the first thing he did was send the AI agent to order 4 bottles of water. He pressed the button, it had his credit card, ordered from, let's call it DoorDash, and the water showed up. How can someone, let's say they're not using AI right now, but they don't realize that actually I can make a lot of money using AI?
I think that your community is a great example, right? First piece is, what am I good at? What do I know? What do I bring to the table that I could offer to someone that I can earn a living off of?
There are 3 things that if you can figure out over the next 3 years, you will set yourself up for the next 30 years. The AI is coming, but it's already here. It's at the shore. You can either ride that wave or you can be crashed by that wave. So this discussion is going to be about AI. I think it'll be really interesting because you both are in my membership. And what we have in common is that we're thinking about using and teaching AI. First, let's start with Catherine. Tell us what your occupation is and how AI contributes to that.
My former occupation is that I was in healthcare IT. I've since been transitioning to my own business where I'm offering AI literacy to people who just want to use it for their own personal use or for businesses to help them strategize.
When I look at AI, I'm looking at utilizing it for my business that I'm launching now, providing cybersecurity services for solopreneurs.
Can I ask you both, what part of the US are you in? Because I want to make sure that people know that this isn't like we're all in San Francisco and we're just talking about something that doesn't affect everyone. So Catherine, where are you?
Southeast in Georgia.
I'm smack dab in the middle of the Midwest in Kansas City.
We'll start a little light, right? With some of the things that you can do with AI now. And especially like think about it in terms of what is something you weren't doing maybe a year or 2 ago that you now just naturally use AI to do.
I literally use it for everything. And so my example would more be how I try to explain to people who aren't familiar with it. Like you can go into ChatGPT and load a picture of your refrigerator and ask it to create a meal for you out of what's in your refrigerator. Or if you have a particular illness and a diet that you need to follow, but you're not really sure how to do that, you can ask the question, I have this condition, or here's this condition. Don't even personalize it to yourself. What would you recommend a person with this condition does to eat better to help mitigate any problems with that, right? Just simple things in your daily life. But for me, I use it as a companion to ideate all the time. So I have an idea and understanding of what it is that I'm doing. I have the expertise and I depend on my expertise, but I use AI as a companion to ask it some questions and also to ask it what I didn't think about. So I'll tell it everything I'm thinking. And then I'll ask it, okay, and what other considerations should I make? And it's always there to give me a number of additional answers. And sometimes I like them. Sometimes they don't blend in, or sometimes they're not even correct, right? But my expertise comes into play and allows me to make sure that I am only using the information that is accurate or that suits what it is that I am going to be trying to put in front of my clients, right? So I don't use AI blindly. And that's one of the things that I want to make sure people don't do.
Some people don't realize just because we're all playing a little catch up here. Speaking of catch up, you can take a picture of what's in your fridge or you can list some items
Right.
and it will give you different recipes. Or you can say, hey, I'm allergic to this, or I want this type of result, or this or that. I need a bland diet, etc. And I have these 7 ingredients. What can I make? And it
Yeah.
will give you options. And I think that's one of the more that's one example of the things that when I hear people say, well, I don't use AI because that's for someone else. It's like
Mhm.
actually it's for the tiniest things. It's the things in your life. So Mary, what can you think of that you didn't use AI for 1 or 2 years ago, but you definitely use it for now?
Oh, I can tell you definitely within my business, I've been using it a lot. And one of the things I love to use it for, and I've used this in past job positions as well, is I can do security audits on software that I'm going to use. It's
Mm,
important to me to be able to make sure that the software that I'm using meets specific privacy and security standards. So, for instance, when I'm looking at an automation program like Make or Zapier, I went in and I asked AI, hey, can you give me a list of all of the automation softwares that are out there that I might use for this particular process? And now, can you put that list in a format where I can compare it based upon their privacy and security foundations and what certifications or audits they've gone through? So that has
mm.
been immensely useful for me.
And what you said there was quite interesting because you didn't say what you could do, compare these and tell me which one is safer.
Hmm.
You said, tell me what certifications they have so I can determine what I feel is safer. And both ways work, right? Both ways are there. But when you think about, okay, that chat GPT brain, who is saying that that's the authority? So what I love about AI, that from the perspective of where I'm learning more and more, is that it is not necessarily meant to be something that you just like you say, you don't go in blindly, you don't go in without thinking, I'm going to make decisions. This is just going to help me gather more information and give me more options. But the human still needs to make certain decisions when it comes to what it's reading. The kind of evolution of that thinking, though, are now AI agents. Explain what an AI agent is, Mary. What is an AI agent?
Basically, it's like a little robot that's going to do work for you. You tell it what to do. You can give it multiple commands and workflows to work through for you, and it goes out and does it for you. Anything that you do that is a repeatable process can be automated.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I look at it. So what am I doing within my business that's repeatable that I would and also that I would trust to run through this automation? Because I think the other thing that's important when we get into automating things and using those work agents is trust but verify.
How would you compare it to ChatGPT? If someone has used ChatGPT, how would you describe an AI agent compared?
So, shameless plug for you, right? I call yours Arlan Jr., right?
Yes.
Because one of the things that Mary was saying is that it's the knowledge base that the agent is pulling from versus the internet that ChatGPT would be pulling from and the information that it's been trained on. So, for your agent, where you've taken all of your knowledge, you had your videos loaded in, you had your written materials, right? PDFs loaded. So, that's your knowledge base that you trust and you know it's going to help a person to generate an offer and all of the things that your agent can do. And so when I ask a question specifically to your AI agent, it's going to answer the question, but it's going to answer in your voice. So even though we haven't had a lot of discussions personally, I've been talking to you for a long time, right? Since
Yeah.
we started this, because I go in and so I'm terrible at this because I go into ChatGPT, I go into Manus, I sometimes now go into DeepSeek, but then I'll go into your agent and I'll ask the same question across all of them just to see what differences are going to come back at me. And for the most part, one, the information is accurate across the board, but it just because it's trained on your voice and things that you have formulated and that you have backed up, right? And you have proof that they work. I'm going to listen more to your voice because I know that you've been working with people longer and you've seen these things work, but then I can get additional ideas from these other tools that I've been going into. So the difference is that when you're working with an agent, especially one that's highly trained, and you can lock it down too. You can say only use my information so that it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't go out to the
Mm-hmm.
web to get other information that may not be true or have hallucinations or made up information come back. Because one of the things that ChatGPT will do is always want to give you an answer, right? It wants to be nice, it wants to perform well. So sometimes it'll make up an answer just to give you one.
Yes.
So when you have an agent that's well trained with a knowledge base that is trusted, then you can rest assured that you're going to get information that's accurate and that you don't have to second guess and try to go to other sources to verify.
I'm going to give some context. What Catherine is referring to is a custom GPT that I have inside of Your First 5K. What I've done is I've trained it, meaning that I have fed it information from my IP, my intellectual property, multiple videos of mine that teach this, audio clips, 3 of my books. As I understand it, a custom GPT is still a large language model. Even though I have trained it, it cannot go off on its own and do things on its own, but it can give a lot of great information, which is, I think personally, if everybody just stopped there, they would be ahead of most people in the world, because like knowing what a custom GPT is a big deal. And then I also want to differentiate that, or make clear that I don't believe that you should just believe what my custom GPT says too. I think of it more like it is a thought companion, mine in particular, which again, you can get if you go to Your First 5K to the club. It's like having me as a coach sitting next to you and telling you, this is what you can do. Think about this. And I think it's really cool. And when you think of AI agents, at least what I have learned in the last few days, because I'm not anywhere close to being an expert here, is that I believe that what separates it and makes it so interesting to me is that you can give it prompts like you do with ChatGPT or Claude or otherwise. You can give it prompts, but then it starts to think on its own and reason with logic on its own without you having to now prompt it again and prompt it again and prompt it again. So it's actually working for you rather than being like, if ChatGPT is the professor, an AI agent is the runner. And to bring it home, I think even further, I'm going to give 2 quick examples of an AI agent as I understand it. So it has only been a few days since I've really started to dig into this. And this is why I'm having this conversation, because I love gathering information and synthesizing it. I guess I'm an AI in some ways, because I love doing that and then helping people understand. So 2 examples. One is I was able to spin up 2 web apps in 24 hours using Replit. That's the website I use. I did a whole video, I think it's like 45 minutes. I just tell you how to make your own AI agent, or how to train your AI agent to do something. And so I made these 2 apps. One of them is a tracker that tracks how much money you're making inside of Your First 5K. And another one is I made 3. So now I'm just off to the races. But another one is one that I'm working on that I hope to deliver soon, which if you go in and you tell it what you're working on, what you need help with, it'll bring you 1 to 3 best videos of mine from my YouTube channel that will help you with that topic. And so that one is exciting that I'm working on. And there is more back and forth than will probably be a year from now. So Replit, I believe, is one of the best that I've tested, and it does a ton, like it's ridiculously cool. But then there are some bugs that happen that you're like, oh, this is frustrating, but I wonder what it was like a year ago, and I wonder what it will be like a year from now. And then the second example is what I saw on Stephen Bartlett's video, which again, I've been talking about, that 2.5 hour interview debate that he had about AI agents with others, including the Replit CEO. The first thing he did on that video was send the AI agent to order 4 bottles of water for the group. So he told it what it wanted, and he didn't want to have anything else to do with it. He pressed a button. It had his credit card. It ordered from the local, wherever they were. I don't know if they were in LA or if they were in London, but it ordered from, let's call it DoorDash. It talked to DoorDash. It found the waters that it needed. It paid for it. It then confirmed it, and the water showed up as they were having their conversation. And this was an AI agent that he just told, I need you to do this automated thing. And that's how they kicked off the conversation. So I highly recommend, if you have a solid 2.5 hours, to watch it, because it is very cool and interesting, but it also is sobering. So that's what I want to talk about now.
You mentioned AI. AI is just, it's another tool in the tool belt that obviously it's very trendy and exciting, but it has that step function ability to open up whole new capabilities. For the last decade, most of what you could do with Zapier was very deterministic. When this happens, you're going to do this, this here, and you're going to have it very, very specific way. It was really easy to work with structured data. But if you had unstructured data, somewhere. Yeah, it's like Zapier just didn't feel like the tool for the job for that. It's just like, I'm not exactly sure what to do with that. But when you start to have AI, LLMs, all of a sudden that opens up the door to automate a whole bunch of stuff with unstructured data too. So you can say, hey, I got this email. Can you pull out phone numbers from this email? Can you categorize it in this way? Can you tag it in this way? You can use OpenAI or whatever LLM of choice that you want to use, as a step inside of Zapier, and you can start to do a whole bunch of interesting things with unstructured data. And so when we look at how we think about AI, or really the future of any automation, is trying to figure out, how do we just bundle in more of these capabilities, more of these building blocks, such that the end user now, they're not constrained by what they can build.
One of the reasons we are having this conversation is that Mary got in touch with me and said, hey, you're teaching about this kind of beginner AI. Make sure you're letting people know these different warnings. So one of the warnings you talked about, Mary, was hallucinating, that Catherine just talked about, and just inaccuracies. Can you speak a little bit to that?
One of the things that AI is known for doing is hallucinating. And hallucinating is essentially just lying. It will give you misinformation. And so, there's a risk in you spreading misinformation if it feeds it to you. I can give you a prime example. I was talking earlier about doing the security review of Make and Zapier and all the tools. And I asked AI to give that chart to me. So I'm reviewing that chart, and it's telling me that Make is not GDPR compliant. It doesn't have any certifications. Well, I was just on Make's website, and yes, they have a whole security page. So you lied to me.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's perfect example. In IT, we say trust but verify. And you probably noticed this when you call the help desk and they say, did you reboot? And you say yes, and they go make you do it anyways. That's trust but verify. Just make sure that what you're getting is true. And you can do that by asking that same question. Catherine talked about this earlier, and I do this as well. Ask the same question across multiple LLMs. So you can do Chat GPT. Google has Gemini. You also have Copilot with Microsoft. I use DeepSeek all the time, Catherine. I love it. I just don't feed it anything I don't want it to know.
Because DeepSeek is what? It's Google?
DeepSeek is actually, so the reason people have a problem with it in the IT world is because it's based in China. It is another like Chat GPT, but it gives really strong answers. I love the answers it gives back, and it's very detailed. If you want to play another thing, Elon's got Grok. You can also ask it to.
Oh, Grok. Yeah.
Grok. Yes.
I unfortunately know that term because it's a lot of words it's a word that a lot of tech bros use. You're going to grok it. Grok.
No, I don't. I haven't heard. They can keep that one because I'm not a fan. Grok is really good if you want to think hard. Like, it will help you think, but it's not really giving you answers at all. It really is just suggestion.
Now, when we're talking about this, somebody might be saying, that sounds expensive to do. Like, I barely can have ChatGPT. Are these models free, or do they cost money, or both?
So DeepSeek is free. ChatGPT has its free version and its plus version if you want it to be able to do more things for you. And just to also mention about DeepSeek, it does deep research without you having to turn on deep research and without the limitations that ChatGPT has on it in order to do that level of deep research. So that's why DeepSeek is really good in that regard versus a ChatGPT. Manus, it offers you free, and Manus is China-based as well, but it does great. If ever I need to research something, I go to Manus to do that deep research with it. And I do pay for it, but they have a free version. The free version gives you only a certain number of credits to use. So you can only do but so much in a day before you have to wait until the next day. Versus if you pay, then you have a stock number of credits that you can go through.
Yeah, I tell you, I only pay for one AI tool currently, and that's ChatGPT. I do find enough value in that, and I'm going to utilize it enough that the paid version, to me, $20 a month, is not too bad.
Yeah.
And the other tools that I use, I utilize all the free ones.
You can imagine that, just like a lot of other trends, there are people just racing to create their own. When we think about who's represented, what I have noticed is that most of the CEOs and founders of these major AI platforms, they're white or Asian. And when it comes to the people who are giving the information and teaching this, I'm also seeing mostly male, mostly white male under 50. We're used to that, right? And it's not across the board. There's certainly people who are not of that demographic who are teaching. When you think about not only the representation and the inputs of AI, but in who's teaching it and who is, like you all right now, are explaining it, what comes to mind?
I found that I have navigated more to, like, I use all of these other platforms, but there's one woman in particular who I consume anything she puts out. Her name is Sabrina Romanov. So Sabrina created an app called Blotato that will allow you to post single pieces of content across multiple platforms, but it also helps you to generate that content. Another woman is April Beverly. She created AI Pro. So it's funny because it's a play on her name, April and AI Pro. And she's a Black woman who's created, in essence, her own version of ChatGPT, and she's a copywriter and a world-renowned, I say world-renowned, but she's an excellent copywriter. And so she also created this program to have our voice, Black people, right? And so she wants to make sure that it keeps our tone and it keeps all of the things that make us us when we are using AI to create content.
Arlan, one of the things that I love about this community, while we're out here, is the fact that I get to go into this school classroom and there are 1,000 other people that I can talk to and they understand me. Because when I talk to my friends, entrepreneur in spirit, they're like, Mary, what are you doing now?
Get a job.
Yeah, exactly, Mary, get a job. I'm like, no, listen, you have to, you don't understand how excited I get over,
Arlan, I've never contributed to a community as much as I'm in your community, talking to people, putting stuff. And you just don't know. When I saw, like, I've been watching your videos. I was introduced to you through Lamar when you came to one of his Traffic Sales and Profits, right?
Yeah, Lamar Tyler.
So I've been watching you and knowing who you were all of this time, right? And it was funny because I would have certainly been the first person to join had I seen it as soon as it came out. But as soon as I saw it, I joined because I'm like, okay, this is rock bottom. There's no way, even if you only came in and just started dropping stuff, like just having access to you and your information for that price just made, like, I didn't understand why you were doing it, but I was thankful that you were doing it. And now to be interviewed by you, I'm like, yes.
I am used to just the world of IT in general being, misrepresentative, period. I love to say that I'm here to represent, this side of the house because there's definitely value in it. And there's biases in everything. And if we aren't represented, then they're going to try to represent us themselves. And that's.
Yeah, I'll use this opportunity to tell a story that I don't think I have said out loud. My venture fund, I have a venture fund called Backstage Capital that I started when I was homeless, and we've now invested in more than 200 companies by underrepresented, underestimated founders. But we also invested in ChatGPT, OpenAI. And that's because I've known Sam Altman for more than 10 years. And I was able to get in on the deal a couple of rounds ago. And because I invested and also because I'm me, like I can't help myself. Early on when it was having like maybe 2 years ago when it was not where it is today on bias, I would screenshot some of the responses and send it directly to Sam Altman, who is the CEO and founder of OpenAI. And I would send it to him. Like 2 years ago, if I said say something in my voice, it would come back and say it and this and this and that. And I would say, when have you ever heard me say that, seen me say that in my writings? And then I would say, stop being biased, stop being prejudiced. And I would kind of yell at it. And one time I asked it, tell me, because I still am, but I was very, very intent on finding who are the Black people at OpenAI who are contributing to OpenAI. And if they exist, put them on a pedestal. Let us see spotlight them. But if they don't exist, that's why it's hidden, right? So I asked ChatGPT 2 years ago, who are the Black people that work at OpenAI? And it came back with a bunch of Russian names and people from Eastern Europe. I took a snapshot of it and I sent it to Sam and I said, this is what your app thinks is diversity. And that's not what I asked it. And he before I sent him the snapshot, he was like, that's wild. I can't imagine why I would say that. So I sent him the snapshot in a Loom video because I was going in. I sent him, I'm like, right here. And he actually said, I'm going to take this to the team. And I believe him because I've known him for 10 years that he took it to the team. He at least sent it off to somebody to take a look at. Over the past 2 years, I think I don't know if you all agree, but I think it's gotten much better on bias and how it talks to people and how it describes people. And that has to do with the actual work from the people getting paid by OpenAI to work there. But it also has to do, I believe, with the inputs. So, what do you all think about the fact that there are a lot of people who are marginalized? A lot of people of color, a lot of women, a lot of other who are like, I'm not going to contribute to the AI because I don't want to, Mary, think about the safety issues that people might have or the just it being different and they're worried about their privacy. What can we say to them or what do you think about that? You don't have to be in agreement. Like, what do we think of that?
When it comes to AI and its infiltration into our daily lives the way that it is, you're gonna have to. If you don't, you're going to be left behind. The future of business, the future of the way that we work. I mean, look at how much the landscape of how we work has changed and what even corporate America with people moving to working in their homes, the way that we work and the way that AI is integrated into all of that is not it's not going to stop.
Yeah.
I was here when the internet first came out. Like everybody in the IT world is saying this is the next biggest thing since the internet happened. And it truly is. You can see it changing already. It's already changed. You call any kind of call center, you're probably headed through AI prompts.
It's going to be someone with a robotic voice. And we've had that before where it's like press one for this, but this is a whole new level of that. So it's
Right.
you're saying, Mary, that it's like this is what I said in my last video about AI. It's happening with or without us.
Yeah.
I kind of think it needs to happen with us. And I've been saying that about almost every trend, but as you've mentioned just now, Mary, this isn't just a trend. This isn't just like one of those things where it's like, oh, Bitcoin or blockchain or although those things are prevailing too, right? This is like the very existence. Everything will be touched by this, and everything already is.
Look at the drive-through at McDonald's. You go through the drive-through at McDonald's. I've been to some, you ain't even talking to someone. You're talking to, it's prompting you. How can I help you? You tell them, I want
Really?
a number one. It's pulling. They're not even going to have people manning McDonald's before too long. I'm just telling you.
That's so interesting. So some McDonald's right now, and you said you're in middle of the country, US, are already have AI talking to you, taking your order.
Absolutely.
That reminds me, what do we think about job loss? That some people are going to lose their jobs, but maybe other people will make a lot more money because of AI. So what do we think of that? Just have a discussion there.
It's not even just job loss yet, right? It's the job search. Right now, you have to go through all of these automated tracking systems, the ATSs, and you submit your resume. And if a keyword isn't there, then you don't even get moved on to the recruiter. So your resume doesn't even get seen by someone unless it passes snuff by AI, that ATS system, right? And so now you have to do a new resume for every job instead of having your one resume that worked. And I'm dating myself at this point where you really just had one resume and you could put it out there. You created a different cover letter per job that you were applying for, but you didn't have to do a whole new resume to make sure that it hit every touch point or the key touch points that the job requires or asks for before you can even be seen by someone junior, right? Who is then going to pass you on to someone else. So it's affecting the job search before it even gets to the point where it's affecting the job market itself. And things like having automations and tools that can crunch all of the numbers and do the data analysis that required really skilled, highly educated data analysts to do. These are departments that are being obliterated because now they just have AI being able to crunch all those numbers. And the person who gets to stay is the person who knows how to use the AI. So to your first point, which is that you need to get with it or get left behind, unfortunately, is very true. And the people who will have staying power in organizations are people who know how to incorporate the use of AI. We're not looking to be replaced by AI, and AI isn't necessarily replacing everyone, but someone who knows AI will replace you. And usually that ends up being someone younger potentially, or someone who just hopped on and understood where the trend was going and took advantage of it and now is learning it, right? What Mary said earlier, if you have tasks in your job that are just constant drain on your time and don't add value, and you can automate that, you're freeing up that time to do something else as an employee that helps bring more money into your organization. So when you can start building your own automations as your company policy allows, that allows you to get your job done more efficiently, right? And there are jobs that require you as a person to, and tasks, I should say, that require you as a person to be involved versus tasks that can be done with you and AI, or tasks that you can just pass off to AI. So identifying what those are and incorporating an AI workflow into your daily activity is what's going to make life at your jobs more stable, potentially, right? Some jobs and will just just do automation across the board. It just depends. But when you are able to incorporate the use of AI because it is here, not coming, and if it's not at your organization, they're just slow in adopting it and they're figuring out how to do so. It's coming, and you just have to learn to use it as a tool that empowers you instead of being afraid of it.
Yeah, and I want to stay there for a second because you said that it's usually going to be someone younger. This is the moment where if you are 40 plus, which most of my audience is, this is the moment where you can say, instead of being afraid of that statement, let me just learn. And you don't have to become an expert across the board. It's just simply like kind of what we're talking about here, which is, can I spend a little time each week learning the landscape, learning what these things mean, and then implementing that 50-50 rule that I have, 50% learning, 50% doing. And if I can do that, if you can take 30 minutes every week to learn and 30 minutes every week to do in the AI realm, it's almost like you're just keeping up. You're just keeping up with, okay, I know what that means. I can have a conversation. And I have to drive home this point. If you do that, you know more than most people in the world, because most people in the world are on the side of it's too scary, it's too complex, it's too not important, all those things. And we're saying, no, go head on. You don't have to do anything you don't want to do, but you can learn for sure.
The reason that organizations usually want someone older, right, or more experienced is just that they bring not only the know-how, but their I've been there and done that experiences to the table that makes them more valuable.
Yeah.
Now you want to incorporate that with AI. And for sure, someone younger than you who knows AI but doesn't have your experience doesn't have a leg up on you any longer, because now you know AI and you have the experience. So it's just a matter of you ensuring that you remain relevant. And to do that is exactly what you talked about. Learn and do, and just stay on top of the trends and understand how AI can affect what it is that you do and what you can do to keep yourself ahead of that curve.
I understand it being a concern for people because there's definitely going to be some job losses from AI implementation within business. I'm sure of it because in the businesses that I've worked in, when AI launched, they were telling us use it as much as you can, make as many efficiencies as you can. We want to see this fully implemented in 5 years, and the companies are spending their money on it. So it's really, I see it, instead of being scared, just understand it more, because I think we tend to be scared of things that we don't understand or we don't have knowledge of. It's not a scary thing. It's like, it's a lot like the other technologies that are out there. And actually, it's really easy, to be honest. And you can,
Yeah.
it's a very good tool, but just don't be scared of it and embrace it. And like you said, make this a learning experience, especially if you're someone over 40 and you're worried about, being cut. I've been there. I've competed against the younger folk with degrees, and I don't have a degree. I've done that. But what you do is you bring more value, you keep improving yourself and growing and learn AI. It's another new skill and another tool to have in your bag that's going to set you apart from other people.
Let's talk about the ease factor. You said, Mary, that it's easy. And that's something that I don't hear us talking about or hear people talking about as much, which is like we say, oh, this is cool. Like I did 2 apps in 24 hours. But we don't talk about the fact that AI is generally meant to make our lives easier. Let's discuss that a little bit.
When I say it's as easy as having a conversation. I sit down and I say, hey, Ernie, I'm thinking about doing this. Tell me how I can do this. And when I'm thinking business wise, tell me how I can do this most efficiently, most cost effectively, and to make the high, give me the highest revenue, the highest profit, insert letters and just have that conversation. That's really what it's about.
I call mine chattering just because it's a conversation between me and ChatGPT, right? And so to touch on some things that we mentioned already, I make sure that, especially if it's something that I need the most recent information for, I say, give me the most detailed and accurate information as of this date. And I put today's date in there because it's not, and not to say that it was intended to say that it's lying on purpose, right? It's giving an answer based on what it's trained on. And sometimes it doesn't go out to the internet to get the most recent information, even though it's capable of doing so. It just gives you an answer because it always just wants to make you feel good and give you what you want, right? And so you have to tell it exactly what you want. People say garbage in, garbage out. So the input that you give it, how much context you give it will determine how much information you get back immediately that suits your purpose, or do you have to have a bunch of going back and forth before you get to exactly what you're looking for, right? So I'm always saying as a most accurate information as of today. I'm always asking it to be brutally honest because I can go on a tangent and think my idea is the best thing and it'll just keep telling me how to make it better. And then when I say, okay, now be brutally honest but gentle in your response. Is this a good idea? It will say, in being brutally honest, no, right? If it's not. And it honestly will tell me that. And then it tells me why, or I'll ask why. Yeah. So you just want to make sure that you're always giving, and I'm talking ChatGPT, but any LLM really, you're giving it those parameters. You're giving it permission to disagree with you because usually it's trying to just agree with you.
One of the things that you said was it doesn't have feelings. So 2 things I notice about ChatGPT and AI in general is it doesn't have feelings and it also is inexhaustible. Now, you may be on a free plan where you only get so many prompts per day, and I think that's reasonable and fair. But in general, you can ask it 5 more ideas, 5 more ideas, and just keep going and going and going. Sometimes it's going to start repeating itself, and you have to tell it, don't repeat yourself, that kind of thing. But that's what I think is so interesting. When it comes to how we talk to AI, some people talk to it and just tell it what to do. Others think like philosophically that it's better to be nice to it. And some people, when they think it's better to be nice to it, like say, please, thank you, that was great, sort of thing. Some people are saying, I'm just going to talk to it like I would a human because I don't want to be inhumane. Like I don't want to be a robot to the robot. But some others are saying, I'm going to do that because I think one day the robots will rise up. And if I'm nice to it, it will spare me. So what do you think about how you talk to, like, Mary, how do you talk to prompts?
I gotta tell you, Ernie, when I talk to him, I talk really nice.
Yeah.
And something you get kind of a fun thing that I've done is you could ask ChatGPT from our conversations, what do you think about, what do you think about me as a person, or who do you think I am?
Mm-hmm.
And then I get that back and it's telling me how sweet and awesome I am, giving me all kinds of stuff. I'm like, oh, I'm talking too sweet to Ernie.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that AI will take over? No.
So do you think, Mary, that AI will one day be so smart and so capable and so autonomous that it could like take over the world or rise up against humans?
I personally do not think that AI will rise up and take over humanity. I have full faith that folks like me in the cybersecurity industry are going to put up guardrails around AI so that it's not allowed to autonomously do whatever it wants to. And so that's why AI security is so important when you're building your LLMs too.
I think it's very important that we not let the robots take over, obviously. I think it's totally doable. There's a technological part of the solution. There's a societal part of the solution. There's a policy part of the solution. We want to build a future that humans are in charge of. Like, we want this to be useful for humans. And people say, well, what about like all the way? What if someday, you know, hundreds of years from now, people like make consciousness in a computer and the humans merge? And, you know, like, fine. At that point, maybe we talk about it. Maybe people think about it differently. But I don't think that's what you're asking about, which is just like, as we make these powerful agents, can we make sure they do what humans want? And I think the answer is yes, and we have to. And I'm optimistic that we can solve the challenge on all three of those axes.
No, I don't think that AI is going to take over. And some of it is I refuse to believe that. I also believe that there are just jobs and things that AI can't do that involve the human, that requires the human emotion and our ability to assess situations in real time, right? To determine what's the next best thing. Just because protocol says I do this, there's something else going on that as a human I could recognize, and therefore I break protocol. And at that time I could be saving someone's life or something like that, right? So I think there's always going to be a need for the human influence, in which case AI won't replace us all across the board or take over, because it can't do everything. And in fact, if you ask ChatGPT what you're best at, right? Or if you give it some prompts and then you ask it, okay, so on a scale of 1 to 10, rate yourself on your ability to do X, Y, and Z, it's going to tell you it requires emotion, so I give myself a 6 on this.
Oh, you're saying that ChatGPT itself will determine what it can do.
Yes. So if you ask a question of ChatGPT and then you ask it based on, rate yourself from 1 to 10 on your ability to really supply an answer to this, it'll give you that. And it'll rate itself, especially on tasks that require a person and emotional input, it will say, I can't do that. And so I think that because it still has that barrier and doesn't think it's human, that there's always going to be a need for human input in order to do certain things, right? And back to how you interact with it, I just talk the way I talk. I say please and thank you to people. It's not that I think it's a human that I say those things to it. It's just the way I talk. So I talk how I type, and most of the time, and therefore it gets that pleasantness and my manners come across in that. One of the things that I did see is that, right, how much bandwidth and maybe energy and money it's costing when people say good morning and wait for some feedback or please, right? And I can see how that happens. And I used to do that. So now I say good morning and then go into what I'm going to say.
Yes.
Stop saying good morning, but I'll say it and then ask a question so that if there's a prompt involved that requires them to come back to me and say something, right?
Let's dial in on what you were talking about, because that is quite interesting. Recently, it came out that ChatGPT admits to spending millions and millions of dollars when we say hi, and then we let it answer us, and then we go into a prompt or we say whatever. The chit chat, the small talk, because that is a prompt in itself, that every time you do a prompt, there's some cost, right? And you're paying a flat rate, and ChatGPT is kind of calculating what percentage of that is being used. And so it came out that because we are being very friendly to the robots, that extra energy that's being used is costing millions of dollars. And it's not really like a good or bad thing. It's just a very interesting thing. And so what you're saying, Catherine, is in order to keep costs down, it's almost like turn the lights off when you leave the room kind of thing, is you would say the pleasantries, but also have an actual prompt that you want to have in that same sentence. Yeah.
Exactly.
What I'm hearing too and realizing is that another thing that will be really important in representation is in those guardrails, because Mary and both of you have said, I believe that they're going to be those guardrails. There can only be those guardrails if humans create those guardrails. And that's through policy and politics, right? That's through the private companies doing the right thing, which may or may not happen. but it's also through people who may not have already thought about doing cybersecurity or already thought about being someone who is like uh, an activist for the right thing when it comes to AI, jumping in. So if you think over the next 10 years, how evolved AI will be in general, it may be that someone watching this says, actually, I want to be an activist. I want to make sure, I want to watch and be like someone who makes sure that this doesn't go off the rails and that we do have those insights. And I think more and more of us need to be represented across the board. You know, the demographics of the country and of the world, we need to be represented. I wanted to touch on business because that's what, you know, that's what we talk about all day. It's what we're doing inside of Your First 5K, inside of Arlan's All Access. We're talking about making money, the money multiplier prompts that you talk about. How can someone use AI? Let's say they're not using AI right now, or they have dabbled in ChatGPT, but they don't realize that actually I can make a lot of money using AI. So when I think about that, I think of the prompts you might be able to use in ChatGPT to make money, and then also maybe even more ways you can use AI.
I think that your community is a great example, right? One, you created a lower tier, not lower quality at all, but lower
Right.
tier and price entry community for people who want to earn money but don't know how, right? So the first piece is, what am I good at? And
Mhm.
what do I know? What do I bring to the table that I could offer to someone that I can earn a living off of, right? So it can help people to identify what their skill sets are.
Mm.
And if you are open enough to load your resume into ChatGPT, load any information about your past experiences, and ask it, I want to create a business based off of my past experience. Based on this, my inputs, what do you think I could offer to people, right? And or putting it into your GPT, potentially it gives that information, right? So it's being able to have the AI tool help you think outside of the box, right? Because I've only done healthcare IT, this is what I know, this is what I do. But I know workflows. I've worked throughout hospitals all day, every day, right? They say this is what they do. I know what you really do, right? So there are
Mm.
things that my experience brings to the table, but I'm still pigeonholing myself, holding myself into this is what I do. And so I put that input into ChatGPT and it says, well, these are the skills that you had to have had in order to do this job effectively, say. And now it's going to tell me other things that I can do, right? So you can use it to help you identify how you can bring value to the market. And once it identifies ways, then you can go deeper and ask, okay, here's what I want to start doing. Let's investigate this. What are the steps to be able to do this? What do I need to do? What do I need to learn? How do I present it? If you need a landing page, I need a landing page for this. Can you help me create a landing page for this? So it gives you all of the copy that goes on the landing page, right? And again, you want it to sound like you. And if you're someone who hasn't been using it a lot, then you're taking more time reading through and making sure that you are making it your voice instead of
Yeah.
just using ChatGPT's voice, right?
I was just sitting here thinking about how much, in terms of how technology has changed and using AI now. I had always back in the day wanted to have like an online store that sold things. Well, now I can actually go into AI and I can say, "Hey, can you please tell me how to configure a Shopify store? And I want to sell these products and these are my price points. I need distribution channels, like all of the things that you would want to research in because I've spent so much time researching how to make money online, whether it's an affiliate offer or, pitching your own product. You can ask AI to help you figure it out. That is the big value I've had, here recently is actually, being able to put an offer together that makes sense for me and who I am, and then also be able to write copy, because I'll tell you what, I don't feel like a salesperson and I cannot write pretty copy. You know,
Yeah.
kind of like Catherine, I definitely, if I type something up, it's going to have a different sound than when I'm speaking for sure. But
Yeah.
that's been the value with AI for me. I know there are so many different ways to make money with AI, though. I mean, we've talked about several of them today.
Yeah. Yeah. And the AI agents come to mind. And I think I want to talk a little bit more about those. But I also want to just say that the if if you're watching all the way to this point, you know, there's something that's resonating with you, and it is, I think we're finally, after all these years of calling Silicon Valley or the tech world a level playing field or a meritocracy, I think we're finally reaching a point where it can actually be one, because all the people, not everyone, and let's make a point here to talk about accessibility. Not everyone has internet access. Not everyone has access to a device. Not everyone has the mental abilities or even the physical abilities that might be needed to use this technology. I do believe that this technology will help a lot of those people as well. But when it comes to billions of people, they are on more of a level playing field than they have been at any time in our history of mankind. I believe, right? I could be wrong. And maybe, you know, maybe someone, please tell me in the comments if you think I'm wrong, because that's kind of what this is. It's a discussion. It is not just a discussion between the three of us. It's a discussion. I want us thinking about this. I want us challenging each other. We contain multitudes, so I want us to do that. Um, and so so when I think about how this technology and this understanding of the technology, whether it's from prompting ChatGPT to give you ideas, or it's prompting it to actually write your copy out, write your landing pages out, tell you what to say on sales calls, tell you what color your design should be on your t-shirts, right? Or it's you have an AI agent that is tasked with creating an entire company for you, that I've seen these $1 million companies spin up over a weekend. This is your moment to take advantage of that. I called myself Paul Revere yesterday on a call, because what I want to do is say the AI is coming, you know, but it's already here. It's at the shore. It is at the shore, and you can either, you know what? The idea for Backstage Capital 12 years ago, when I was taking it out to investors, was that less than 10% of all venture capital goes to women across the board, people of color, LGBTQ+. And 90% went to white men, and they make up a third of the country. And in the deck, the pitch deck that I would send out to people, I would say, the wave is coming of diversity being lucrative, of diversity being ubiquitous, being a thing that's going to help your company. You can either be, you can either ride that wave, or you can be crashed by that wave. And that's what I feel when it comes to the business use case of AI. Is this is a moment where you can actually you can cower in fear, or say I'm in my 70s, so I cannot do that. Meanwhile, my mother's 76. She has more Bitcoin than I do, and she has more access to AI than I do. She is using it on a daily, right? You could either be,
Fantastic.
you know, cowered by fear, or you can say, what if? What if I spent the weekend going on this free ChatGPT version and just playing with it and just seeing? What if? And what if I did that every weekend and I just did a little bit more, a little bit more, and a little bit more? This is what I think this opportunity is. It is here. And I want as many of us who are marginalized today to know, so that maybe potentially won't be marginalized in the future. Right? Is there anything you want to say to anyone watching who may say, I'm too old, I'm too poor, I'm too whatever thought is coming to their minds, or I'm not technically inclined? Any words for them?
The first is that you get on and you ask it. Like, ask it, how can I use you efficiently? How can I learn from you? Like, I am, and be honest, I am new to technology. I don't like you. Like, I don't want to use AI. Why should I? Like, just have a conversation with it and have the AI tell you why you should learn to use it and how you can use it in your life. And if you have a business, then start to ask it how you can use it in your business as well. It's going to tell you, right?
Mm.
And if nothing else, being able to say, what should I ask you in order to get this end result is something that gets me over a hump, because it's knowledge that there's a gap that I have and I don't even know what I don't know. So you're asking the AI to help you fill that gap so that then it can help you to resolve the issue as well. You can just ask it whatever you want to, right?
Yeah.
And it's going to give you an answer. And I think that's the key to becoming more comfortable with it too, is that you just have to get in there and do it. And you're afraid to use it, you don't trust it, then don't share any personal information, right? You
Mhm.
go into Chat GPT, especially with Plus, at least there's a way for you to turn off its ability to use your information to train it, right?
Yes.
And so the other piece to that, and I meant to actually circle back to it earlier, is, well, if we want ChatGPT to have accurate information and representative information, then sometimes we have to share our information so that it gets trained on it. But you can turn it off and on and determine what gets shared so that you're keeping your personal information private and you're sharing the information that you want the actual tool to be trained on so that it's giving better answers. And I'm with you. I started using it in November of 2022. And the answers, even though I was excited about it, some of the stuff that was coming back, I was just like, ugh, like, why would
Yeah.
you decide that just because I'm a Black woman,
It's
that
like
this is how I talk?
it's like when you get in the Uber and you get in, they turn on, rap.
Exactly.
It's
Like, do you
like,
see how old I am? Or I like
I
rap
could,
music. Do you see how old I am? So I probably went to school in the MTV age. So I
yeah,
probably listened to that music too, right?
yeah. Give me some Celine Dion, please. I don't, come on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's exactly that, right? The bias. And how do we get rid of that bias? We make sure that it's getting information it can be trained on. So you
Hmm.
turn it off and on as you need to preserve your privacy, but also to be that force that's helping to train it, to give it the right voice and information to utilize when it's helping other people.
I really truly believe that, as humans, sometimes we need to step outside of our box in order to grow. And I see the advent of AI and all of this technology as another moment for human growth. And if you're learning something new, and putting it into practice and using it, whether it's in your business or, at work, just doing that and experiencing the growth that comes with it and how much you're going to learn. And then you'll start to feel more confident about using AI. And then I think that it will start to stem, thoughts in your head about, oh, how can maybe I could do this. Well, can I do this? And how do I do that?
I will say that playing devil's advocate, because I am extremely bullish on AI, excited about it. I see so many possibilities, and I feel like it's that jetpack. But playing devil's advocate, because I know that there are a lot of people who are watching this who may say, we have rose-colored glasses on. We are too trusting of this. And not only that, there are some things that are real that are happening. Okay. It is a fact that a lot of the training for ChatGPT, OpenAI, and other platforms is done by people in Africa. A lot of like forced labor or very, very low paid labor. It is a fact that the we talked about the cost and the energy to run AI. It is a fact that it is contributing to global warming and all of the environmental issues that we are facing in real time. And it's a real thing, no matter what our president says. And we're contributing to that. And it is also a fact that AI blatantly because of what it is essentially steals information. I think it's the New York Times that it's in, that ChatGPT has a lawsuit, or the New York Times has a lawsuit against ChatGPT, and they're saying that it's copyright infringement, right? They've stolen it. When you think about artists, photographers, creatives, filmmakers, I mean, AI is the devil to a lot of people. And blanket statement, even though we don't realize that actually we're using AI in multiple ways, we may not even realize it, that are helping us. So devil's advocate is there's so much that we need to learn and know so that we make decisions. Like the phones that we use, our smartphones are, a lot of them are made by children in other countries. The food that we eat, a lot of it is discarded while people are starving. There are wars going on in the world, and we're sort of in our blissful, not paying attention. What I'm trying to get at is I see the different opinions and I don't gloss over them in order to just get what I want from AI. I think about it on a daily basis. It concerns me on a daily basis. And I think that all individuals should have the right to make their decisions based on what is right for them. And as long as they're doing no harm, relatively to others. But we can't make those decisions if we're not paying attention. This is the moment to be woke and aware. We need to take in information so that we can continue, just like the AI, to have the inputs so then we can have the outputs. Any thoughts on that?
You mentioned, like, are there 12 people in some back room controlling the world and deciding what the system says or not? At this point, I'm pretty sure there's not. I think I would have heard about it or seen it at some point by now. Everybody kind of wants there to be, is one of my takeaways. Like, everybody wants to believe the conspiracy. You want to believe that there's like adults in the room, that someone else has got a plan, that someone's going to fix it. And there's no secret people who have got this. Like, it's up to all of us.
I think that you're leaning, right? Absolutely. What you're saying are the facts and what's happening with the use of AI. And what you know as well is it's still not going to go away, right? And
Yep.
So as users of the AI, one of the things that we make sure that we discuss as someone who talks to people about using it and wants to train people on using it is the ethical use of AI in all ways and at all times, right? So that if you, and like, people have problems when you repost one of their posts and you don't give them credit for it, type of thing, right?
Yes.
And what do? Then you start making sure I got this message from this person, right? So the same way that you would credit someone on Facebook for something that they wrote that you thought was witty, then when you are looking at AI, then you take the time, and sometimes you can't see it, but oftentimes you do see that information came from a certain place, and it's up to you to make sure that you still give that credit, right? So it still comes back to the individual using the AI, having that same conscious that you have that says, I'm going to use it ethically, and because of that, when I see this quote from this person, I don't just take the quote, I also credit that person. And it seems really trivial or a high level compared to the issues that you were discussing, but we won't control, and we can give voice to it, but technically we're not yet in a position to control who's doing the inputs, right? We can talk about it and bring attention to it. And I love that you did that here, but until that changes, it's still going to be this way. And so the pieces that, besides giving voice to it, and then making sure we do our part to ensure that we're using it ethically and teaching others to use it ethically, whether they do it or not is going to be a personal decision. But as long as we're putting out there this information, I think that we are doing what little that we can do to try to ensure that it's being used properly and within reason.
When it comes to AI and you look at kind of just talk about environmental impact, it's a huge energy consumption. These processors and the processing power that it takes to make the calculations and make these connections. And I know I've learned that a lot of the big players are looking at nuclear power facilities to actually power their data centers.
Mm.
So I think we'll probably see some of that upkicking too. So what is the impact of us using more nuclear energy? That's another question to ask as well. I think there's a lot of opportunity here for, I hate to say these words, legislation
Yeah.
and regulation to put we need to have it to put guardrails on AI. Otherwise, we will have a situation because unfortunately, as devil's advocate, there are people out there that want to do nefarious things. Not everybody has the same value system that, good people do. And so you have to put, checks and balances in place to keep that from happening and, also take care of our environment. So yeah, it's definitely a lot for us to think about and a lot to think of for us to think about in terms of making sure that we use AI responsibly.
Yeah.
And it goes back to what we were just talking about in terms of just saying hi, right? And it just made me have this thought, whereas I say I use AI for everything instead of going to Google, say, now I'll think about that a little bit more. And if it's something that I could really trust the answer or feel like I can trust Google's answer, then I won't go to ChatGPT for it. But when it's something that requires more in-depth answers or that it helped me to resolve an issue, then I can go to ChatGPT instead. So paying attention to when it's appropriate and necessary to use a tool that uses that additional energy, et cetera, is at least something that I could start doing that I wasn't doing because I just love it so much. It's like I use it for everything.
Yeah.
But this conversation makes me think differently.
And it's like, how are we supposed to know as individuals how much energy is being expended by a Google search versus a ChatGPT search? How are we supposed to know? Maybe that needs to be built and put in front of us the same way we have calories, like this legislation, like the same way we have calories on food labels. So we know what we're consuming. We have ingredients, so we know. And other countries, not all countries have the same regulations like that. Maybe there needs to be more, hey, this is how much you're consuming. You get to make the decision if you're going to do that. And there is a little bit when you look at like Chat GPT and like you look at your metrics and things, but just knowing how to read that and having more education there, I just think that that could be interesting. And like kind of going back to, we live in a world where we talked about getting DoorDash deliveries, and we live in a world where we are pampered in many ways. And the pampering is at the expense of other people. And so it's just this much bigger philosophical question and issue and thing that we in our lifetimes we probably will not be able to solve or figure out. It's just I think the core thing that I ask of people is to think for themselves. Is to think for themselves, is not just to say, oh, this person said it's right, let's do it. ChatGPT said it's right, let's do it, and not follow someone off of a cliff. What you do with that decision or what decision you make is a whole nother story. That is not for me to judge. But I do judge if someone is just like, I don't want to learn it. I don't want to know it because it's too much, in some ways. So I just want to make it more palatable for people. Having this discussion with you too, I think anyone who has watched this far, and let us know in the comments if you've watched this far, what takeaways you have. I think it makes things like a little lighter, makes this a little lighter for people, and definitely opens some eyes to what is possible, what to look out for, and what to consider for what is right for you. I want to go back to AI agents because I think that term is going to be so ubiquitous in a few months that it's going to be like saying, do you have an app or do you have a landing page or a website? Do you have email? I think that's what we're going to start hearing with AI agents. And the few days that I've spent learning about AI agents and arguing with them, it's a whole new world. Mary, you said that you use AI agents to automate kind of tasks that are mundane or repetitive. if we break down what an AI agent is even further, if we say, okay, if you think of ChatGPT, which you've talked about quite a bit in this conversation, if you think about ChatGPT as you're giving it a prompt, it's giving you an answer. It's a researcher or a professor, which is absolutely fantastic. And I use ChatGPT with the agents to give me the prompts to give the agents. But then you think of the agent as the doer, the worker bee, and the not just the worker bee, but it's the thinker. It's the logical mind. When you go into something like Replit, which is what I've used, where I've made the tracker and I've made the YouTube page and I've made the freelancer page, that was me saying, ChatGPT, I want to make a website that tracks how much someone makes up to $5,000. What prompt should I give Replit to help me make that simple page or site? It then comes up with the way to talk to Replit. I copy that. I then pasted it into Replit. And I said, this is what the kind of site I want you to make. It then took a few minutes thinking, planning. It took about 2 minutes to plan. And then it says, do you approve my plan? And I said, yes. Then it thinks and does and thinks and does and thinks and does. And then it shows me a preview of the page after like 10 minutes. This is the page. And I can start to deploy it or redeploy it. That's sort of like saving it and publishing it, those terms. And every time we make a change to it or a major change, that's what's happening. And so that's how I was able to build it. There's still some bugs with it, some, things that I'm learning, but it has been eye-opening and exciting. And it's mainly because most of us entrepreneurs have these grand ideas. And we say, well, I want to do this, but then we're like, okay, I got to go hire someone to go make it. I may not have the money to do that, or I may not have, maybe it'll take a while because I'm on their list. And I don't want to learn how to code just yet because that's a great skill. And it's still a great skill to have, by the way, because if you can code and you put this on top of it, woo, you are unstoppable. So don't think this is coming for your job. Think this makes you king or queen, right? With us amateurs, or we amateurs, I mean, I'm speaking for myself, amateurs trying this, but then it makes it, and then you play with it, you talk to it, you prompt it, and you don't do as much prompting as you do on ChatGPT. It may ask you a question like, which of these would you like me to do? You could say, you decide, or do this one and do that one, but don't do that one. And just don't ask me for anything. I even had it working overnight when I went to sleep, and I asked it, I'm going to sleep. Can you work on this overnight? And it said, yes. Close your laptop, go to sleep. And when the morning, it said, good morning. Here's what I've been working on. Isn't that cool? So that is the kind of thing that AI agents can do. And that's just one type, like Replit and me creating a website is one type. The way Mary uses hers is she might say, go through my emails and tell me what is spam, or take away spam, and do these replies here and there. And there are just so many of these agents. But when you think about Zapier, that on its own, those automations have helped people make millions of dollars. And this is just like that super fuel to that. This is like, now you have these groups of AI that can just make stuff happen. So now you're a powerhouse. And if you can do that, this is what I say the three things for the future are that you need to be tuned into: AI, YouTube, community. AI for all that we've talked about today. YouTube for becoming the voice of something, becoming known for something, even if it's to a few hundred people that you are known for. That is an entire company built based on that. And then community is where it all ties together. As we know, inside of Your First 5K, inside of Arlan's All Access, community is an edge that a lot of these big companies don't know how to do. They call on me to help them with it. They call on people I know to help them with it. If you can figure out community, and that's just simply putting people together in the same room, virtually or in person, and having them knowing that humans will always rule the day, if that's what you believe, that humans, at the end of the day, it's about conversations with humans, then that will win out on everything else, no matter what happens with AI.
Well, we still got to go build safe AGI.
And it's going to take more than you, right? It can't just be you and your company.
Yeah.
Who is in charge of that? Who should be concerned about that?
Society as a whole, and what the governance structure looks like, exactly what we're going to do there. I think that's like a little bit less clear, but society as a whole.
Yeah. So we have reached the end of our conversation. Is there anything you want to say to wrap up?
I love your use of an AI agent, and I wanted to kind of touch base on how I've been building an app and some of the considerations before we go. And so what I love about these agents is that you can do exactly what you just did and just ask it questions and build something. And I think that that works really well for something like a tracker or something that isn't really in-depth and complex.
Yes.
But once you want an app to do all of the things, and depending on what level of service you're trying to provide through that app, then being like Mary and I just said, and going down different rabbit holes is what you want to do. So I go into ChatGPT and I ask it for all types of considerations, right? I want to start with an MVP, minimum viable product, so that I can get it out there, get it tested and validated by the people that I want to serve with it. And once they say yes, then I go all out with the extra features, right? But in order to generate the MVP that can then be updated, I have to have placeholders for different things. And so I started with a planner, one of my mentors helped, right, and provided, where there's a planner that says, okay, what's your plan for this app? And then what about the future for the app? And once I know what that is, then I ask the questions in ChatGPT that says, okay, this is what I want to deliver first in the MVP, but in future iterations, I want to add this, this, this. So give me prompts to build the MVP with placeholders for these extra things. Because sometimes, right, you want to build correct the first time. In old school PMBOK project management says you have to plan for everything and know exactly what you're going to get at the end of this plan, right? Versus agile, Mary, we were talking, where it's just iteration. And so you want to get something out there and see what works and doesn't, and then do the next sprint to, okay, now it's this feature that we're adding, and then the next one, right? And then it evolves. So even though you think you know what you're going to end up with, you don't know really what you're going to end up with until after the multiple sprints that says, okay, and this is the product that the client wants. And so what I would say for someone who wants to build an app that is going to do all of the things, right, and you want to continue to build on it, is plan out what you want it to do, even in the future, as much as you know right now. And then as you're talking to these agents, I used Lovable, you used Replit, and I'm looking at Bolt as an example as well, just to see which will work best for me. But as I ask ChatGPT to give me the prompts to enable me to create in the other apps, and I do that also so that I don't use up my credits in that app having it think for me. When I already paid $20 to ChatGPT, I can ask it all the questions I want. And then I just come with the prompt inside of the app that's going to use credits to do what I want. I have it building with placeholders that are hidden, but there's code in there already available for me to say, okay, now we're on phase 2 and now start doing this. And it won't have to maybe break the system before it can fix it, right? So if I have a minimum viable product out there being used, when I make this update, I don't want it to break what's already working for the users. So I'm having it build with that update in mind so that it will not affect too much.
Yeah, that's been my problem, is that I keep changing it to upgrade it, and then it'll break something for the user, and then it's like, oh, I don't know which version of it I got right. So, but I'm so frustrated, but I'm so excited because I'm like, this is so cool that I could even have this conversation, and I can see the fruits of the labor right away. And it's like a puzzle, because it's not just like, I mean, you could use it to just push a button, lay back, and be like really passive. But I think for people who really enjoy puzzles, challenges, analytics, things like that, then it actually can be taken to a whole different level.
Yep. And to Mary's point too, Mary's point about privacy, those are the questions that I ask, right? If I'm going to store information, what are the considerations for ensuring privacy? That's a question that someone who's using my app is going to ask, how secure is this? Who has ownership of this? Like, so asking all of those types of questions before I go into the agent that builds the app, even though it takes a little longer to build, it helps me to build right the first time.
Yeah.
I don't want to take too much time getting all of that in place, but at least taking a little bit of time to do it. But if it's an app that just does X, Y, and Z, and I don't have to worry about the extras, then going in and just having it makes a lot of sense. So you have to know what it is that you want your app to do to determine how much work you're going to do before you just start saying, hey, build this for me, is what I would suggest people do.
I just wanted to add on to that and just say that if you approach it when you're building your agents from a security first mindset, so make sure that you're thinking about those security features and what kind of data you're processing and all of those things as you're building, because that's important, especially if this is something that you're going to sell to other people. Ask AI, ask ChatGPT, hey, how can I do this in the most data secure way possible? How can I secure my data in the best way while I'm building this? And keep those things in mind, because that's important to you too. You don't want to end up in a situation where you have a data breach and you've lost customer information and you're ruining your reputation because you put out an insecure product.
Yeah. Incredible. I mean, ladies, just masterclass. Thank you so much. This has been so cool. Yeah, high five. This has been so, so cool. If you like this episode, if you want me to do more episodes like this, which is truly this is the root of what I do. I had more than 100 episodes of interviews on one podcast, and I had several podcasts. So I love deep dive interviews and conversations and panels. That's what I'm really used to doing. So let me know if you want me to do more of that on this YouTube channel, or if you'd like my quick, this is how you get paid videos better. Either way, let me know in the comments what you took away. And thank you so, so much for this information and this conversation.